Good morning. My name is Gil Huff. I work at RSI Intech and serve as Executive Director of TenneSEIA, the Tennessee Solar Energy Industries Association. Our mission is to promote the development of solar energy and complementary technologies, including storage, positioning the Tennessee Valley's residents and businesses as leaders in clean energy deployment and economic development. I want to thank TenneSEIA for putting this together. Attendees will be muted, but feel free to type any questions into the question box. We are recording this video, and tomorrow everyone should receive a follow-up email with the link to the video. Feel free to share that video for others that might have missed this webinar. As a trade association, our calls start with a legal statement. As a trade association of competitors, TenneSEIA must comply with and be mindful of antitrust laws. It is important that competitively sensitive matters are not discussed on this call, including product prices or costs, sales terms or conditions, production levels, sales territories, marketing plans, industry forecasts, or bid terms. If any such topic is raised, I will stop the conversation if necessary in the call. For more information, TenneSEIA's antitrust guidelines are available on our website. Please note for the record that the antitrust warning has been given. I will now hand it off to Chris Casanja, who is CEO of Lightwave Solar and President of the Board of TenneSEIA. Chris?
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Gil, and thank you all so much for joining us for another webinar this morning. It's my honor to introduce people. Before we get to that, I want to go over just a couple announcements. For those that haven't seen, we have the Tennessee Valley Solar Conference and Storage on October 13th. And I think it's especially exciting this year because we are planning it in person. Obviously, we'll be watching things as it progresses, but please mark your calendars and plan on attending. It'll be great to have everyone back in person again for that conference. And as part of that, we are raffling off 10 free tickets to that for the attendees for this Green Connect workshop as well. So we'll be doing that. We'll contact you after the workshop here so you get those tickets and you can go to the conference. As Gil said, we'll be asking for questions, but you can just type them in and Gil will be behind the scenes working to sift those out and interject those at the proper time. And then any questions, if we have more than we can get to, we'll follow up afterwards with answers to those. So just a quick preface for the whole Green Connect and how we got here. As many of you know, we used to have the GPP program, and that was a program where it was a buy all, sell all contract with solar generation where a residence could take and put solar on their house and it would be metered and be purchased by the TVA and they'd be compensated for that. Well, that program ended, and with the end of that program, it left a void in the market of, well, how do we ensure standards? How do we ensure that equipment that's installed and solar and storage specifically, that it's installed to the highest level of safety and quality in the market? So TenneSEIA and TVA and the local power companies started working together to form what has become the Green Connect program, trying to take the best practices from the industry, the needs of the local power companies and the TVA, and put all those together in a program. So when you, the consumer, looks at the Green Connect list of contractors, you know that that contractor understands how to install and how to put forth a system that adheres to the guidelines. So we've spent a lot of time working on the guidelines and putting the program together, and that's what everyone's going to go over today. So as part of that, it was my honor to work with Lisa Heslip of the TVA. Lisa has been with the TVA since 2001, and she's currently the Senior Program Manager in the Origination Renewables organization. She led the development of the private scale solar offering, Green Connect, so she was the point on this whole project. She's also the program manager for the generation flexibility option. So she's got a lot going on with the evolving TVA as a lot of the solar and storage and everything's kind of moving that way in the valley. But she also collaborates closely with the local power companies and customers throughout the solar advisory group that is part of TVPPA, the Tennessee Valley Public Power Association. So she's got her fingers in a lot of the pieces here, and she's put together the panel. And again, Lisa, it's been my honor working with you the last year and a half on the program. And at this point, I will hand it over to you to run. So Gil and I will be in the background kind of checking things, so put any questions in or chat if there's any issues. Otherwise, Lisa, take it from here.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And it's been an honor to work with TenneSEIA as well, and you. We couldn't have done it without you. So good morning, everyone. As Chris mentioned, I did lead the implementation and development of the Green Connect program. However, many of the people that you see here today on the panel also were part of that team. It was definitely a team effort. We received local power company feedback and advice through members of TVPPA Solar Advisory Group. Again, we also received a very important perspective from TenneSEIA. They challenged us to keep it simple and not make it burdensome for installers to participate. That was really, really helpful. Clear Result staff, I can't say enough about them. They have managed many of TVA's programs for years, about 15 years, and we couldn't have done it without their guidance. They automated the program, they pulled it all together. We had such an awesome team developing this program, and that's apparent with the programmatic activity to date. I checked this morning, and we currently have 170 end-use customers registered in the Green Connect program. We have 65 systems that have been submitted, totaling almost 500 kW, and we have 14 installers that have been approved as QCN members and are authorized to submit installations through the program. Green Connect is TVA's newest private scale offering. We conducted well, the independent third party conducted some market research and revealed that end-use residential customers wanted to use the power that they had generated, and they wanted to reduce their utility bill. They also wanted a reputable installer to provide a quality installation. And then lastly, they wanted an independent third party to ensure that they received a quality installation, and that's exactly what Green Connect offers. Our goal today is for installers to leave the webinar with an understanding of the differences in the program models and the many benefits that the program offers. Some of the benefits that we're going to touch on are lead generation, the standard interconnection application and agreement process, consumer protection and customer satisfaction, and then lastly, the installation verification. Yeah, even the installation verification is a benefit. You're going to hear about all of these things from these industry experts that we've mentioned, local power companies, installers, and Clear Result. They're here to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully more good than bad, but we are welcome both. So I'm going to quickly try to introduce our panel members. First on our panel, we have Ty Pritchard, owner of Tungsten Electric. Ty began working in the electrical trade 23 years ago, eventually becoming a master electrician. In 2012, he became NABCEP PVIP certified. Ty has worked as an installer, project manager, and engineer. He started Tungsten Electric in 2015, and he has installed hundreds of residential and commercial projects throughout Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, and West Virginia. Thanks for being with us today, Ty. Our second panelist is Elizabeth Thompson. Elizabeth joined Duck River Electric in August of 2020 to manage communications, economic development, key accounts, and residential and commercial programs. She is one busy lady, I think. She came to Tennessee from Central Texas, where she served as an energy accounts manager with a municipal electric utility and oversaw residential and commercial renewable programs, public information, and the utility's large commercial and industrial accounts. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us. Next, we'll talk about our two Clear Result panelists. First, Wes Soward. Wes has been involved with TVA program delivery for almost 12 years, beginning his tenure delivering trainings for the Tennessee Weatherization Assistance Program. In his current role, he leads the team of trade ally managers who are the main points of contact between program administration, us at TVA, and our QCN members, our Quality Contractor Network members. Prior to his employment with ClearResult, Wes worked in residential construction, assisting home builders with Beyond Code programs such as LEED, Energy Star, and DOE's Builders Challenge. His college studies were a starting point for a career in energy conservation with his major focused on renewable energy and green building technologies. And then last but not least, we have Tierney West with ClearResult. Tierney has been involved with the TVA Renewables program delivery for nearly 6 years. In her current role as Associate Program Manager, Tierney leads a team who assists with the administration of the TVA Renewables programs, including green power providers, green switch, dispersed power production, and she was an integral team member to the designing and implementing of the Green Connect program. Before being in the renewables area, Tierney managed operations for a residential home and outdoor living construction company and graduated from Middle Tennessee State University with studies focused on communications and operations. So as you can see, we have a great panel here with a wealth of knowledge. So let's get started with some questions for our panel members. The first one will be about the different program models offered in Green Connect. So in order to offer flexibility and encourage local power company participation, Green Connect has 2 program models. The first model is the local power company managed model, and the second model is the TVA managed, or some of you may hear it referred to as the turnkey model. Duck River Electric Membership Corporation opted to manage the Green Connect program themselves, or in other words, they selected the LPC managed program model. So Elizabeth, let's start with you. Why did you and your team at Duck River decide to manage the Green Connect program yourself?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for the invitation. Duck River evaluated both the LPC managed and turnkey options thoroughly before we ultimately decided to go with the LPC managed version. And the main reason for us doing that is we wanted to maintain that role of trusted energy advisor with the members we serve. We have an excellent relationship with TVA and ClearResult by extension, and we really utilize their expertise to help us to provide the best possible product to the members we serve. But we see tremendous value in keeping those touch points local, especially for those that we've served for many decades. So they know, many of them are familiar with our team members, and they've utilized our expertise for a long time. So keeping that main touch point there and being part of the process was very important to us. The other, I think, primary element that we wanted to ensure we still had influence in was the safety and the review of the systems being installed. So obviously when our linemen come to work every day, we commit to them that we want to send them home safely back to their families. So anything that interconnects with our system is obviously a potential risk to their safety. And it was important for us to still have a stake in reviewing the systems to make sure that we understood them and they complied with our system, and we didn't have any concerns about how they operated. So the internal look for the LPC model for us is a lot of coordination between our staff here in the communications department that takes in the applications, our district managers in each of the offices that we have throughout the communities we serve, our operations team, and our engineers. So there's a lot of internal coordination that goes into this to make sure that we understand and are aware of each of the projects being commissioned in our system.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Those are really great reasons for managing the program, and I think a lot of other local power companies that have opted to manage it, that those are some of the same reasons. Now let's turn to ClearResult. Please remember that ClearResult is TVA's program administrator, and they manage the Green Connect program on behalf of TVA and local power companies that select the TVA managed or the turnkey model. So Tierney, I'm going to ask you next, from your conversations with local power companies, what are some of the reasons that they opt to have TVA and ClearResult manage the Green Connect program on their behalf?
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so with my conversations with some of the local power companies that have opted for the turnkey model, I've really heard three main reasons that have kind of been repetitive. The first being the sheer number of installs that go in each territory. So as you may know, there are just certain territories that don't get very many installations. So it really made a lot of sense for these local power companies to have us administer the program for them, just so that they don't have to have dedicated staff to manage the program just for a few installations each year. So it really is just a big benefit to them to not have to put that on one of their staff members. Similarly, for the verifications, maybe they don't have the staff to attend those or to perform those. So in that turnkey model, we are there to help out and to provide that support and do that for them. So that's really a huge reason. Kind of, you know, in relation with that is just general staff support. So I know Elizabeth mentioned, you know, they have a lot of different people who kind of have their hands in the different program. Some of these local power companies don't have that number of staff, or maybe their staff just don't have the time to do it. So again, we're there to provide that administrative support for them and really help move everyone through the process. You know, in most cases, there are one, maybe two people who are managing these solar installations in these local power companies. So not only managing the paperwork, but also getting calls from 10, 15 different installers who work in that territory, it can be a little overwhelming. So just having some additional support for them has been really helpful. Finally, is really the hub access and the automation of the interconnection agreement and the application. Now, LPC managed, they do have access to the hub, of course, so they get the benefits of having all of their system documentation in one place, all of the single line diagrams, the interconnection agreements, and of course, long-term storage of this documentation associated with their customers. That's something that all LPCs get. But the turnkey model, they do get access to that automated application and the agreement. And that seems to be really beneficial to them because they don't have to manage getting everyone to sign those documents. It's all automated. Everyone gets emails. Everyone gets pinged when they need to do something. So it's really nice just to not have to babysit that process as much. So those are kind of the main reasons that I've heard for the turnkey LPCs, why they've chosen that model.
Thank you, Tierney. Like you mentioned, despite the model selected, a benefit to all local power companies and installers is kind of the one-stop shop. The Green Connect Hub will ultimately include all requirements for each participating local power company in the Tennessee Valley. This will be available to all approved QCN members and installers. So basically, installers will have the ability to know how to do business anywhere in the Valley, you know, for the participating areas. So I think that's going to be a huge benefit. Thank you, Elizabeth and Tierney. Next, we're going to shift to some program benefits. So like any program, to be successful, Green Connect must benefit many stakeholders, including the end-use residential customers, local power companies, and installers. Without the participation of each of these stakeholders, we don't have a program. So although we're not going to focus on end-use customer benefits today, I just want to highlight some of those. Some of the benefits for end-use residential customers are education, access to quality, reputable installers like Tungsten Electric, and assurance of a quality installation through the verification provided by the independent third party, which would be the local power company. in the LPC managed model and clear result in the turnkey model. So some of the other benefits that are more relevant for installers are lead generation, the standard interconnection application and agreement process that Tierney mentioned just a few minutes ago, and the consumer protection and customer satisfaction, and then lastly, that installation verification. So let's first discuss lead generation. With very little marketing and outreach, we do currently have 170 end-use residential customers registered in the Green Connect Hub and 14 approved installers. The reach so far, in my opinion, has been very impressive for a niche market and a newly implemented program. So Wes, we're going to start with you. This is a new program, so lead generation to this point may be somewhat limited. However, I know that Clear Result has managed the Quality Contractor Network and other energy efficiency and electrification programs for TVA for nearly 15 years. So lead generation works the same way in other programs, but can you discuss how lead generation works with Green Connect specifically?
Yeah, Lisa, thanks. Yeah, so as an installer, you become a QCM member in the Green Connect program, much like our residential services programs that we've operated for a number of years. This gives you visibility, or your customers visibility, and your association with TVA and the local power companies. So if a customer is out looking for, they're doing some research and they find the Green Connect program, they'll find the list of qualified installers on the list that's available in the hub. So they'll create an account, they can find a list of installers for each LPC that participates. And we like to think that association for, like I said, the association with the LPC and TVA is really a big benefit to you, because where do people find information about utility cost and the power that they use? They go to the utility company. So how does that work as an installer is really probably what you guys really are most interested in. So that customer finds your information through the website. So they've created an account, they've done some research, there's some educational tools for the customer on there. So they're feeling confident that they've stumbled across a good list here. There's a few ways that those leads are generated directly to you. Of course, your contact information is all listed on the QCN list. So your website, your phone number, email, those types of things will be visible to the customers. There's also a tool on there where they can click a form and they can send you a quick note with their customer contact information as well, and that is delivered to your email. The system will generate that, and you'll get a quick email that says, hey, Mr. Smith is interested in, PV system with battery backup, for example. And that comes to your inbox, so it's something to pay attention to. And like I said, it's just a free avenue for you to advertise in a sense. Those leads come in that way. So pretty simple tool for you guys to use.
Great, thank you, Wes. I appreciate that. Good information. Let's move on to Ty. Again, I just want to say this is a new program, so lead generation may be a little bit limited right now, but Ty, what has your experience been to date with lead generation? And as a follow-up, are your customers asking to participate in Green Connect, or are you mentioning it? So is it kind of a push or pull strategy that you're using?
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so far we've been in the program since I think mid to late January, and we've received 3 leads through the program, and we've got verbal close on 2 of those leads. So it has been beneficial from a lead generation standpoint. And your second question, it's been a mix of both. You've got customers that are very proactive, and they're going to go online and they're going to find the program on their own, and so it's more of them sort of being pulled into that versus us pushing it out to new customers during our sales process.
Okay, thank you so much, Ty. That's awesome. Sure. Great information. So next, let's turn our discussion to the standard interconnection application and agreement processes. Tierney, I'm going to pose this next question to you. At a high level, can you please discuss the difference in the interconnection application and agreement processes by program model? And then can you also talk about the steps in the automated standard interconnection application and agreement process that's available in the turnkey areas?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lisa. So I'll start in the LPC managed side of things first. So in general, for LPC managed territories, interconnection documentation mostly occurs outside of the system. We do require that as a QCN installer that you submit the project in the hub, and there is some system documentation that we require so that we can track the installation as part of the program. That's called a project application. It also is there to help ensure that we get contractors their reimbursements for participating. But outside of that, in general, all necessary approvals and document submissions are generally managed by the LPC outside of the hub. There are some LPCs that do utilize the hub to get their documents from installers. For example, they may keep the interconnection applications and agreements on their LPC web pages, but then they ask that the installer submit them to the LPC using that project application that I mentioned before. So as you can tell, the LPC managed model really gives the LPCs more freedom to manage the interconnection process in the way that best supports their territory, their customers, and their business. So really the best way to work with them is to contact them as soon as you have an installation in their area and get the requirements from them. And with that being said, I do know that it can sometimes be difficult to determine who you should contact at what LPC. So that is something that my staff can help with. We're there to keep a list of the LPC contacts, and we try and update them as often as we can. So we can certainly point you in the right direction of who it is that you need to speak with. But again, contacting them is really a great first step and will really help build that relationship with that local power company. So then when we kind of move into the turnkey territories, as I mentioned before, that application and the agreement all happen as an automated process through the Green Connect Hub. This includes the submission of the system documentation. So as a first step, the customer will submit their application in the hub. I know, and all of the rest of the group knows, that customers will not always know the technical specifics of their program, of their systems. So we only ask that they give general contact information and that they select their installer during this step. The application then goes to the installer to put in the specifics of the system, so system size, if it has a battery, etc. And then at that point, you will upload the documentation for the system. Once you've loaded in your portion of this application, it will go to the local power company for approval. And if approved, it will trigger the interconnection agreement to go to the customer for their electronic signature. Once the system is installed and ready for verification, you do go back and enter in the system cost in that project application, again, that I kind of mentioned a few steps before. And that's what indicates to us that the system is ready for verification. So that's kind of how we know that it's ready to go. And then, of course, for both models, once the system has been verified and it passes, you will receive your Green Connect reimbursements. So I know that was a lot of steps and a lot of information all in one little blurb there. We do have training on the website, on the hub, once you become a QCN member. So we have training on how to go through all those processes. And then, of course, our account managers that we have, they're really great and really happy to work with you guys and try and kind of get you up to speed on the process. Again, we really tried to make this as easy as possible. And so, we're here to help in any way that we can. So thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Tierney. Like you said, while developing Green Connect, we did try to keep it simple and streamlined. So let's see if we accomplished this. Sometimes when you're in a room developing something, there's a difference in theory and practice. So Ty, this next question is for you. How is the automated interconnection application and agreement process working for you and your team? Is the Green Connect Hub, pretty easy to navigate. And if you participate in other utility programs or other TVA programs, I'd be interested in a comparison there. And I can repeat some of those questions as you go through if you need me to. That was a lot.
Sure. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, as I mentioned before, we've been in the Green Connect program since January, and we've got 21 or so applications in various stages in the Green Connect program. We've commissioned about 6 of those. So obviously and Tierney has touched on several of these. This adds some legitimacy to, installers, consistency as far as processes and streamlining. As with any new program, there's always bugs to be worked out, and I think we're working through that. And as long as everyone is open to feedback and making those improvements, it's only going to get better. But obviously you rattled off all the states that we work in, and it's 5 states, and we deal with over 100 LPCs, and it's 100 different ways of doing things, and this really helps add some type of standard. So again, there's always room for improvement, but we're moving in the right direction. So I'm not sure if I answered all your questions. So
I think you did, and thank you for mentioning that. That is something that I tell every person I talk to. When you launch a new program, the one thing I promise you, it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be things wrong, but we definitely make improvements monthly. So if you get in and you decide to participate and you see that something's wrong, let us know, or that we could make something better, like maybe it's kind of a clunky process. We definitely want to improve that. So thank you, Ty. I appreciate that. All right, so now let's turn our focus to the topic of consumer protection and customer satisfaction, which is another benefit of the Green Connect program. Consumer protection and customer satisfaction are important in any industry, but especially as product costs increase and product quality is of varying degrees. The main focus of the quality contractor network is the word quality. TBA's goal is to recruit, allow, and retain only reputable contractors or installers that offer quality systems and stand behind their work. This helps to protect consumers and increase customer satisfaction. Contractor reviews provide consumers a tool for expressing their satisfaction with the contractor or the system. So the Green Connect Hub contains what we call verified customer reviews. Some other services actually take paid reviews. That does not happen in Green Connect or any of the other TVA programs. There is a strict process followed to ensure that only customers of the Quality Contractor Network member can leave feedback for them. So Elizabeth, I believe that one reason that you said that Duck River opted to manage the Green Connect program was related to consumer protection and customer satisfaction. So even though the product purchased by customers is not Duck River product, interconnection to your system is required, and so your team is intimately involved in this process. If the installation of a system doesn't go smoothly for an end-use customer, it can reflect poorly on Duck River as well as the installer. So in your experience to date, does the Green Connect program and the Quality Contractor Network support consumer protection and customer satisfaction? And if so, how?
Yeah, this is a really important topic for, I would wager that every LPC and frankly, everybody that's participating in this today. I think our ultimate goal, and I very much believe this is a shared goal amongst all the stakeholders, is that we want to provide the best experience possible for our mutual customers, or in our case, since we're cooperative members. We obviously want them to get the product that they're looking for at the end of the day in the most efficient, easiest process and manner possible. So one thing that we were really excited about with Green Connect was the Quality Contractor Network, which we're familiar with from the variety of residential programs that we already do with TVA. And because we don't get in the business of advertising or advocating for any particular company or installer, it's really nice to be able to point members that do start with us and say, you know, there's a quality contractor network out there that is full of potential contractors for you that have been vetted and their insurance has been confirmed, and there's, you know, they've sort of gone through the process of ensuring that they can provide you a quality product. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, nobody goes into this with the intention of disappointing or upsetting anybody, but we also know that miscommunication happens, and I think that's probably the biggest component to success here is communication between the LPC, the installer, and of course our joint customer. So I think our most successful projects thus far have been because we've had great communication with all of these people. From the very beginning, the paperwork that we need to move the process forward, we can't do our job until we get what we need from the installer and the member. And so that expectation of here's what we need and when we need it and being transparent up front, I think is important. When we joined the Green Connect program, the first thing that we did was develop a new webpage on our site that clearly outlined all of the requirements that we have at Duck River, frequently asked questions, things that we could kind of anticipate right off the bat from previous questions we've had about solar. We really tried to address what we could come up with as being the common questions or kind of sticking points. But I do believe that customer satisfaction or member satisfaction in the end is really what we're all going for. And the last thing we want is for a member to be held up because we don't know what's going on or we can't get a hold of who we need to, and we don't want to be the holdup. So I really believe that having a good working relationship with contractors who are there to do a good job makes all the difference for the LPC.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Next, let's discuss the installation verification. Many times, contractors may think of the installation verification as a hindrance or burdensome, but if discussed properly, the installation verification can be a benefit or a selling tool for installers. So let's turn to our panel members to elaborate on this. Wes, I'm going to start with you this time. Can you discuss the installation verification process at a high level and talk about how QCN members can use the verification as a selling tool?
Yeah, be happy to. The verification on our side, you know, I think it ties in a lot with the customer satisfaction piece that was just discussed. It's an opportunity to ensure that everything was installed and as agreed upon with the contractor and the customer, but it makes sure that we've reviewed and certain safety things are met. You guys have installed things to code locally. That's handled at the electrical inspection piece. So this is more of an interaction to make sure that the education components and some of those major components are installed per the program requirements. And to answer the second part of the question, no, it is a selling tool. It's an opportunity to set yourself apart by saying, okay, I'm willing to have another third party come and look at my work. We want to make sure we didn't overlook something that we can correct on the front end of this installation, instead of having to address a complaint that might surface 2 years or 5 years down the road. It's just another opportunity to kind of QA your own work and be honest with your customers, like, hey, we want to do the best that we can, and we want to make sure that we've identified any issues and we resolve those quickly for you, because you know you want to have that customer as hopefully a lifelong customer, but also word of mouth advertising is something that I'm sure that we all know is important, and it gives credence to not only your all's work, but you know your relationship with the LPC and TVA as well.
Thank you, Wes. Tierney, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. I would just like to say that I know having someone verify your work can sound a little intimidating. I definitely get that. But I do want to assure you that Wes and his team of account managers really do their absolute best to help guide everyone through the process, so that you and all of us by extension can have successful verifications. These account managers and many of the advisors have already had extensive experience in this specific program model, as I'm sure you've heard in residential services and whatnot. So, you know, they really kind of know what it takes to be successful here. Don't get me wrong, implementing solar in this model has been a new venture for all of us, but they have all worked in these territories, and a lot of them with the specific staff that work in solar. So they already have those relationships, and they're definitely really great at establishing relationships and building a good working relationship with the installers that are in their territories. So again, I know I've said this repeatedly, sorry, but all of us at Clear Result really want to do everything we can to make you successful in this program, and that includes help moving you through the verification process. So lean on us when you can and where you feel comfortable. We're here to help. So.
Thank you, Tierney. So the job of the energy advisor is not to make it difficult or fail people, it's to help them pass jobs. So thank you, very good point. Elizabeth, I'm going to turn to you. I know that you've had a couple of installation verifications completed in your service area. Can you share your experience with us?
Sure. We've actually had, I think we're up to 3 now with Tungsten Electric, and we've had great success with them and very much appreciate the work that they do and the communication that they offer to make it an easy process, as easy as these installations can possibly be. There's a lot of moving parts, and we acknowledge that, but we do appreciate how well they've worked with us on these projects. One thing that we decided early on in our venture into Green Connect was that we wanted to utilize TVA's Comprehensive Services Program to do our verifications for us. And there were a couple of different motivations behind that, but we do review the plans and the one lines for these projects, but we really prefer to have TVA be the organization that goes out there and performs the testing and kind of gives us, in our opinion, a third-party unbiased, opinion of how the installation went. So that's been very successful for us, and it's been a great partnership. They've been very easy to schedule with, and it's a relationship we already had with them for our commercial and industrial members and the programs they offer through comprehensive services. So that's been fantastic. I think that the hardest part for us is just getting to the point of verification, and then from there on, we expect for every single one of them to pass. We don't go out to any of these appointments expecting that something's going to fail. We certainly don't want it to. That's absolutely just more time on the installer, our member, us. So the goal every single time we schedule one is we want it to pass, and we want everybody to move on and be happy. And so far that has been our experience, and we'll continue to get more proficient with all of this, all the pieces of this process as we move forward. As everyone's alluded to, any new process has its hiccups from time to time, and from the LPC side, I can tell you we are absolutely not perfect at every piece of this either, and are very appreciative for feedback that we receive about how we can make the process better for our folks internally, the installer, and of course, at the end of the day, the end user. So I would say that our experience thus far has been primarily very positive, and we're very thankful for the installers' willingness to work with us and understand our side of concerns and things that need to be verified, and be mindful of the fact that our linemen do have an inherent risk working on our system when there's things interconnected to it. And I guess I'll end with just very recently, I think it was just this week, I learned about it anyway, a new state law here in Tennessee that requires that utilities be informed of installs, that they meet certain requirements, which in my experience, installers are meeting anyway, but it's nice to have that kind of backing of that understanding that there is a safety risk to the folks that work here at our utility and all throughout, really the world working on these systems. But that's something that I think the installers that we worked with thus far have always been mindful of anyway, but we're certainly appreciative of that understanding being out there.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's very good information. I'm glad that they've gone well so far. Ty, I'm going to turn to you. As a QCN member and participating installer, what has your experience been with the system verifications?
Sure. As you mentioned earlier, Lisa, you know, the sound or the thought of another gatekeeper, another person inspecting your work, you know, can be a little off-putting at first, but our experience has been very positive with these inspectors. They're not there to make, you know, our job any more difficult. You know, the real nitty-gritty inspection has already occurred, you know, with the electrical inspector, and these folks are just there to make sure the system gets commissioned correctly and safely. And again, it adds consistency to what we do, which, you know, is our biggest challenge is inconsistency throughout how things are done with inspectors, LPCs. So, you know, this is just, again, a step in the right direction for adding consistency and helping this industry really drive down costs, be more efficient, and more effective.
Thank you, Ty. That definitely was a concern that we heard from installers throughout the program development process, was how everything is done differently everywhere in the Valley. So hopefully this program will bring some consistency for you, for Clear Result, for LPCs, for TVA. That's definitely a goal of this program. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see, Elizabeth, I'm going to come back to you. I know that there are some fellow local power companies on the webinar. Would you recommend Green Connect participation to them? And if so, or if not, why?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to the point earlier, with there being two models, depending on the reality of your particular LPC, the staff that you have to dedicate to renewables, which of course it's a growing industry, and we've had a lot of interest in our area, and I think others would say the same. I think it's nice that you can choose which model works best for you. It's really, it gives you the framework, it gives you resources that not every utility has. If you're fairly new, and this hasn't really been something that's been occurring much in your service area, and you, of course, you want to make sure you're doing it right and that your members or your customers are getting the service that they deserve, it's really nice to have TVA and Clear Result there as a resource to help you hit that goal. So I do think that whether LPC managed makes more sense to you if you have the staff and the time to dedicate to it, or turnkey, at this stage, I don't really see how you can go wrong with participating in the program. And just, again, the resources alone and the access to the hub that kind of makes all of that a little bit more efficient and lodged in one place, and it's stored, and, you know, papers don't get lost and all of that. I think that those are all tremendous benefits that each LPC would probably find value in. So yeah, I would definitely recommend evaluating both, you know, similarly to how we did, what makes the most sense for you, what's your relationship with other programs and your members, what's their expectation, and then, you know, choose the model that's right for you, and ask hard questions. And I think that's the best way to make a good decision.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I know that we have had some local power companies sign up for the program as turnkey, and then, you know, immediately kind of thought, ooh, I think I want to be LPC managed, and they've changed. So that there's definitely flexibility to, you know, if you start as LPC managed and you realize, oh, this is more, I don't have enough staff, you can change models to turnkey, and vice versa. If you start with turnkey and think, we really can do this ourselves, and I want this touch with my customer, it's definitely easy to change models. And I think that we will have some of that going on as time goes on, and local power companies become more comfortable with the program. So Tierney and Wes, kind of staying with that theme, and I know we've talked a little bit about this, but think about the turnkey model of participation. Although you support both LPC managed and turnkey, maybe talk about the benefits of turnkey model participation for the installers and local power companies, and maybe talk about the support that you add for local power company managed as well. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Wes, I'll go first if that works for you. So with the turnkey model, really some great benefits. I've kind of already touched on them a little bit, but it's really having that automated interconnection application and the agreement. And those are standardized across all of the turnkey LPCs. So whenever you become a QCN member, you get what we call the program reference manual, and that has all of the standards. It has some information about QCN participation, but it also includes a copy of that standardized interconnection agreement and a copy of the standardized interconnection application, as well as a copy of that verification sheet that kind of goes over what it is that our advisors are, the questions that they're asking, kind of what they're looking for, a little bit more specifically, I should say. But you have access to all of that, so you will be able to see those interconnection agreements, those applications, and you know that if it's turnkey, that is going to be what your customer's signing. That is what you are being held to there. We do have a standardized application fee. So the application fee is the same across all of the turnkey local power companies. So that's a really big benefit, I think, to everyone, just again, with cost in mind. And then, you know, having, again, my staff as kind of a dedicated resource and to kind of act as a liaison between the customer, the installer, the local power company. As Elizabeth mentioned, communication can be a little difficult, especially when you have so many hands in the bucket. So really, we're trying to take in all of that communication and disperse it all to the correct people, and try and streamline it as best we can. So those are really some of the really good benefits from that turnkey model. Also, the verification, as well as Lisa mentioned, our advisors are there. We have some advisors that work in-house. We have 4 that work all across the valley. And then, of course, the local power, the LPC managed, they have their own advisors on staff. But they're all trained in the same way, and they're all there to kind of implement it in the same way. So there's still that standardization, even if it's LPC managed versus turnkey. So that's a really big benefit, having those in-house advisors. And then as far as how we support the LPC managed, we of course are there to answer any questions if the LPC managed staff have any questions about Green Connect. So we're there to help in that way. We still kind of manage some of the documentation for their customers. And by that, I mean, whenever those project applications come in, we just make sure that all of the documentation that's coming in is correctly associated with the right customers. We know that you're likely, I should say, not working on one customer at a time. So documentation can kind of get shuffled. So we like to try and help manage that in there and make sure that the LPC managed folks have everything that they need, at least from our end. And then as I mentioned with the account managers, these account managers are the account managers for the QCN installers, whether it's an LPC managed territory or a turnkey territory. So there's that single account manager for that territory, and you can contact them for both. So there's not too much of a separation there. And I think that's a really big benefit and another big layer of support that we offer for those LPC managed utilities. Wes, I'll let you take it from there and see if you have anything to add. I'm sure you do.
Thanks, Tierney. You've summarized that pretty well, I think. But to add on to the consistency piece that Tierney mentioned, I think specifically from a turnkey model, as it pertains to a QCN member, I think Ty mentioned it a couple times previously, you know, trying to have the same rule book everywhere that you're working from is kind of the nice thing. It's that's consistent on LPC and turnkey models, but the process for your customers to apply, for you to submit the work is consistent on the turnkey model. So all the LPCs that use the turnkey model, that process is exactly the same. So I think that's probably, from an installer standpoint, that's probably a big benefit, that that's one less moving piece that you don't have to worry about. Not to say that the LPC model, we have a section that's being developed in there currently, so you can reference where your customer's LPC is and see what those program requirements are, so that everybody stays on the same page, at least on the front end of that conversation. It's a great tool to reference that. You don't necessarily have to make a bunch of phone calls to find that information. We're trying to get that information sourced for you. So, if you're working in Duck River today and you do another job in Nashville and NES or somewhere else, you might be able to reference those different program models quickly and easily. So.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Tierney. Also, Clear Result makes all of the payments to the installers as well. So on behalf of LPCs, and no matter which model that they select. Ty, I think I'm going to end the questions with you today, and then we'll take questions from the attendees. But there are a lot of installers on the webinar, and would you recommend Green Connect participation to them? And if so, why? I know you've touched on some of it, but if you could elaborate again. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Just to reiterate, we've this has been the ongoing theme throughout this conversation, is adding consistency to the process. And, for what we do, the installation aspect is the easy part. It's really the permitting, the interconnection, those are the biggest challenges for what we do. So, this is adding some consistency to that process. This is, streamlining that process. And I see it only improving from here. Obviously, Wes mentioned, they're developing some new tools in the dashboard, and obviously there's going to be a learning curve. There certainly was for us, but once you get past that, it's going to be a benefit.
Great, thank you, Ty. One thing I just realized is I have a bad habit of talking in acronyms. So if you heard me say LPC or anyone else, it's local power company. So like I said, I tried to not talk in acronyms, but if I did, just in case you don't know what that stands for, LPC is what TVA uses for local power company for short. That's all that I have. Gil, do we have any other questions that came in for me or the other panelists?
Lisa, at this moment, I do not see any questions, to my surprise, but I can offer one or two if you like.
Sure, as long as they're not hard.
You mentioned that some people might want to participate in other TVA programs. The one that comes to mind is probably DPP. Can you address integration between Green Connect and DPP?
I definitely happen to have an expert on this panel that has worked on that. So Tierney, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So Green Connect really, as a program, it kind of ends really at that verification piece, right? There's not a purchase of the generation option through there, but we do recognize that there are a lot of customers who would like to participate in both. So that is possible and definitely an option there for you to do both Green Connect and DPP for your customers. Now, again, like I said, with the LPC managed models, a lot of that paperwork and whatnot happens outside of the system. But with turnkey, if you look at the interconnection agreement and application, it is listed in there as an option to, if you want to participate in a power purchase agreement, specifically DPP right now. And we are working to integrate the DPP process, the application process for DPP in the hub as well. So that's something that's really exciting. You will hear more on that for sure to come. But again, our whole purpose here is to try and streamline it. And we know that a lot of customers who are going through Green Connect will likely go through DPP. So we are going to attempt to try and create a really swift movement from Green Connect into DPP for these customers, to streamline it, just the application, and to also decrease the time frame that it takes to get those DPP applications moved through. So although they are separate, we are going to try and make them work together really well. So again, more to come there. Really, really excited about that though.
Thank you, Tierney.
All right, we do have a couple questions here now. Do the Green Connect contractors have marketing control over concerning limits to service days and territory? Can those limitations be listed in the TVA system that the end use customers see?
So Wes, do you want to talk about some of that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can try to answer it. I'm not sure I fully understand the question. But as a QCN member, you do have access to marketing materials that TVA produces. I'd say one of the most prevalent things that you would want to use potentially is the QCN logo. So you're a Quality Contractor Network member, and as such, you have the ability to advertise that in your business as part of your, just like you would a NABCEP certification, you might stick that on your website or some other marketing materials, and that's probably the easiest one to talk about. As things progress, I know with residential services, we've had various collateral that's been available to QCN members, and I expect similar things to occur with Green Connect. So that's available to you, and our account manager staff, we're here to help you kind of coordinate and show you what is available and how to order that kind of materials. So I hope that answers your question. The limitations would really be, your affiliation with the program, making sure that you're using the usage guidelines that are set forth for the QCN logo, and basically representing TVA and the program in a positive manner when you're using those things.
And, I would just add that I believe when we initially, got onboarded, we had the ability to choose kind of which territories we would work in, which LPCs. And I think maybe that was part of the question was, can we sort of limit which territories we want to work in and advertise in?
Right, and okay, I think that makes sense. And yeah, as an installer, as QCN member, when you go into your account in the hub, you can see which LPCs participate currently, and you can identify which ones that you're interested in being listed as a QCN member. So technically, as a QCN member, you can work in any LPC territory that offers the program. However, you may only want to be listed in certain key areas that your primary business is in, but you're willing to work in other places. You may have a customer call you from another location that you're willing to work in, but you may not be trying to actively seek work in that area. So you do have some control over how that looks. And then same thing, the LPCs have some control over their internal list too. So.
Great. Next question. How much is the application fee for the program? And you also mentioned payments.
I'll take that.
You want to take that? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. So for the turnkey application, that is a flat $50 fee. Again, in turnkey territories. I can't speak to the LPC managed. I know some of that varies, so I won't go there. But in the turnkey, it's the flat $50 application fee. Now, when we mention payments, we're talking about the Green Connect reimbursements. So part of the program is that you do have to do some administrative work. You have to submit the application, you have to submit the documents, and as we all know, any type of administrative processes can add a little bit of extra burden on your staff. And we certainly don't want this to be something that prevents you from participating in the program. So for each verification that goes through and passes, we provide a Green Connect reimbursement of $250. So again, that's per job, per verification. And that's something that we pay out weekly as the verifications are performed. And as Lisa mentioned, we pay those for both the LPC managed and the turnkey, because again, those are all, whether they're in LPC managed or turnkey territories, it's all still tracked through the system. So we make those payments, and again, we pay them out on a weekly basis. With that being said, as part of your onboarding process, you do provide banking information just so that we can ensure that we're getting those payments to you and they're deposited via ACH payments. So I hope that answers the questions there.
Next question, how do other LPCs handle installations done without their knowledge? I guess this would be the turnkey case. Can you share information to that?
I'm going to jump in just kind of briefly. If from a turnkey model, we as the program administrator would only be aware of installations that would go through the Green Connect program and are submitted through our system. So that would be outside of kind of our purview there.
I don't mind speaking to that just from the LPC side. When you said turnkey, I was like, I don't know if I should talk. But from the LPC side, I think at Duck River anyway, we have bidirectional meters, so we will be able to tell with our AMI meters if something is reverse rotating, and if we're not already aware of an installation or an application, we know that some troubleshooting has to happen. And so if we're already aware that somebody is doing an installation at a location, we can contact them and let them know, hey, we're seeing a reverse rotate on this meter. Letting you know, make sure to shut it down when you're done doing what you need to do. So that's typically how we will identify installations that are maybe in progress or have been installed that we don't know about. And at that point, once we do discover them, we will reach out to the member that we have, associated with that meter and talk to them, find out what's going on. Usually they'll let us know, okay, here's my installer, and they'll provide us the information we need, and we take it from there. We do take those very seriously because, of course, if we don't know about a system, we don't know how it's installed, we have no information to offer our linemen who could potentially end up needing to work on that line and not know that there's an installation there. So we do respond to those very quickly. In the unfortunate event that we can't get a hold of a member, we can't get any kind of clarification on what's going on, we do have to kind of escalate it from there to shut the system down until we can get what we need and ensure that it's been commissioned and all the proper steps are done. That's a worst case scenario. We don't like to do that. We don't want to go out and mess with anybody's stuff, and we certainly don't want to put anyone in a position where it's like, oh gosh, this wasn't done properly. So we really try to avoid that by encouraging our members and our installers, before you get started, please let us know. It goes so much smoother if we already know what's going on than if we have to try and track it down after the fact. So I hope that answers that question.
All right, next questions. How many finished jobs so far, and what is the average size of the installations?
Tierney, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So sorry, I was having some computer issues there. So as of right now, the last total, I want to say we had 8 finished verifications. Now, that's not to say that maybe some of the systems are complete and waiting on verification, but yeah, it's somewhere around 8 that have actually gone through the entire process through to verification. So that's really exciting. I will say it's definitely picking up. So I think we have, at least just in turnkey areas, we have something like 4 scheduled over the next week and a half. So it's really exciting. As far as the average system size, You know, they're kind of all over the place, really, but I would say most of them are just in the residential, small scale residential size. So anywhere between like 2 to like 15 kW has been really what I've seen the most of coming through. Now, there is no cap on that. You know, they can go all the way up as much as they need to, but Green Connect is limited right now to residential customers. That is a piece there, and that is why, like I said, I think we're seeing a lot more of the smaller systems coming through Green Connect right now.
Thank you, Tierney. And I'll add that we do have 65 systems submitted that are someplace in that process. So it is definitely picking up. Thank you.
There was to the previous question, a clarification. The installation that the person was wondering about that they were not notified of, I think this is an LPC, was a DPP installation. Is there a process where if a customer goes through DPP and LPC would be notified of that?
We have, I think, one DPP at this point that I'm aware of. And yes, I believe that one went all the way through the Green Connect process as well. But anything that is interconnected to the Duck River distribution system, we need to be made aware of, whether it's DPP or Green Connect or you know, any variation of a program. But I will say that I think Tungsten actually was the installer when we did that DPP project, and I believe that the installers work directly with TVA on the DPP side. It doesn't as directly impact the LPC. It's kind of a separate agreement, and I won't speak too much to the logistics of that because I'll get it wrong. But there is some requirement on the utility side as well to provide the generation and deliver that information to TVA. So there's a little bit of a tie in there as well. But yeah, any system at all that's put in in our service area needs to be told to us.
I'd like to hop in there too. So I can't, you know, I do work on DPP, and we process some of a lot of the agreements that come through there. And again, as I mentioned, we're working on some development to help streamline the process. So we'll be a little bit more involved. I can't exactly speak to all of the communication between the DPP staff at TVA and the local power companies. I don't really feel comfortable doing that, so I can't speak to that. But I will say, at least at a Green Connect level for turnkey, I mentioned that there is a spot in there in that interconnection application where the customer indicates if they plan to participate in DPP. So that is something that they have to select. And then whenever the application, I mentioned it's moved through the customer, then the installer to enter in their technical specifics of the system. And then it does go to the LPC for review and approval. So even though Clear Result and TVA are managing the program for them, the LPC still does get to review all of those documentations and really know what it is that's going in on their system. And again, part of that is that customer will have indicated if they plan to participate in DPP or not. So it does go to them for review. And so in that respect, yes, they are notified if the customer plans to do that.
And yeah, I would just add one more thing there. You know, that box that they have to check when going through the process that says, yes, I do want to sell my excess generation. You know, the advantage to that is, you know, that kind of gets that whole piece out of the way, because a lot of folks maybe don't even realize that that's an option at that stage, and it, you know, kind of forces that decision to be made early on in the process. Whereas we've run into a lot of situations prior to Green Connect where, you know, we're kind of turning the last screws on the installation, and the customer says, oh, I want to sign up for DPP, and now we're coming back to install an excess generation meter. And, you know, this helps eliminate that by forcing that decision to be made early on.
All right, last question. I think we'll be able to wrap this up right on time. Will every installation be verified or only a percentage?
I'll take that. Every installation will be verified that comes through the program. Do you want to add something, Tierney? Okay.
Nope, I was just going to say that. Thank you, Lisa.
I got the easy question. Thanks.
Well done. This is Chris again. I just wanted to thank the panelists so much. That was great information and very well laid out. Thank you guys so much for taking time to share with the group. And then all the attendees, thank you for attending, listening. There are a few questions we did not get to. We will obviously reach back out on that. But otherwise, please consider coming to Tennessee Valley Solar Conference, October 13th. You'll hear more about Green Connect. We'll have more stories and successes to share, I'm sure, there as well. And also look at becoming a member of the Green Connect program. So everyone have a great day, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Thank you.